Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question, what is consciousness? Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. You made it. I made it. We're here at the live stream of consciousness. What is the live stream of consciousness? Well, of course, it's me, Michael Zinn, and this moment that we're in. I've given it a name and a time. So every week at Thursday, 9 p.m., I do this broadcast, and it's called the live stream of consciousness. We all attend and connect attention and essence, and we become one. And that's what this is, and it's kind of cool. So welcome. It is February 8th. Remember how I'm slowing down time, and it's only February 8th, and it's like this is like the 6th or 7th episode this year already. It's awesome. Instead of time going fast, I'm willing it to go slow, even though we're here every week. So I see a bunch of you guys out there. I want to thank you guys for always being here. I saw Tim earlier say hello. What's up, Tim? I see Grace Grella is out there. I see Helen is out there. I see Ninja Kitty out there. Hello, hello, hello. Helen sent me a funny graphic of the romper room lady with the mirror, and I feel like I should get one of those and say hello to everybody every time, just so we connect. I want to actually start doing that breath thing that I've been talking about, where we will take a nice deep breath in through our nose and let it out. But we do that a few times together and kind of really get on the same place. But I'll save that. I'll save that for another day. I'm excited about tonight's episode. My original guest had to postpone, but another guest popped up. You know how the universe works. Everything happens for a reason. I've been actually inspired since yesterday, which I think was when I put the call out, I think it was yesterday I put the call out saying I need a guest. And this person, my guest today, is somebody who I connected with a couple of years back. We're on the very same frequency, or a very similar frequency. We both were doing projects that were had the word Zen in them, and we connected, and then we kind of drifted apart. But I was thinking about that. I was like, what happened? How come we haven't spoken? And I feel like we'll address that tonight, maybe. But also I just feel like, the universe flows, right? And it's like water, and sometimes you meet someone, you rub up against somebody, and you feel their energy, and you feel you're on the same frequency, and you have a connection, and then you go away, and then you come back, and that connection is still there. You're still on that same frequency. So I'm excited. So I don't want to keep you guys in suspense anymore. My guest tonight, her name is Georgia Rose. She is a psychic, an astrologer. I think that doesn't do it justice, the word astrologer. She's more than that when it comes to astrology, and like a life coach, and just an inspiring soul. And rather than do a heavy intro, I'm going to let her introduce herself with this little video about her show. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Georgia Rose, founder of Zencuda. You can watch me on the Soul Space podcast every Friday at noon on Channel 20 for spiritual guidance. And as you all know, that is how I first opened into my own psychic gifts, was through the angelic realm, astrology. So we've got Mars and the Sun together in Scorpio, which creates a lot of combustion. In the astrological world, we call that a kazemi, and tarot. When the Four of Cups right side up, it means we have a lot of choices to make, and we're not looking at what's really being divinely given to us. We're too busy in the busyness of the choices to really see the divine intervention, the divine timing, and divine guidance. We're the place. Watch the Soul Space podcast.
Very cool. So yes, Georgia Rose is no stranger to this platform. and speaking to people this way. So I'm super excited for tonight's conversation. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness, Georgia
Thank
Rose.
you. Thank you. I don't know. I hope I live up to the introduction. That was quite something.
Well, you know what? I figure this is like, again, my intentional place to be every week. I might as well make it as spectacular and amazing as I can
Yes, I love that.
by bringing on spectacular and amazing people.
So I have to just jump in and say, it was kind of spontaneous, like you were just saying about the way that we came to do the show tonight. And I'm glad that that's when you said we're on the same frequency. I'm so glad that you are what I call a fly by the seat of your pants person, because that's my MO. And for some reason, it really works for me. But I know doing a show like you do, I'm sure you can understand, people don't always like that. They want to plan, they want to know everything. And I'm just like, no, just like, we're going to stick a camera in your face.
It's funny that you say that, because I was like, I got the text from you when you said, okay, I'll do the show. You said, give me a call. I want to talk about content. I was like, oh, I hope she understands. It's really just a conversation. There's no planning. And when we spoke, you were just right on the same page. So
I was trying to be professional for your benefit.
Awesome. Well, this place is really an amazing place to be. There's some amazing people watching. Everybody interacts. I've been meaning to say, and actually speaking to you again reminded me of this intention I had, that the live stream of consciousness is also really, it's about community. It is a community, and the people who watch, and the people who watch live, or the people who stumble across it and vibe with it, subscribe, comment, do all the things that help the algorithm grow the show, because that's how it works these days. And that's how people like Georgia and myself can use this platform to raise the vibration of the planet with you guys.
I try to live in the algorithm of life, not so much social media, but unfortunately, social media is the way the communities are formed now, right?
Yeah,
so we have to play the game a little bit.
I think it's a double-edged sword, I guess you would say, because yes, it's like kind of, you got to play the game, but the reach is much broader, right? I mean, now I have Tim, who listens to the show in Brazil. He's coming to the United States, and it's a cool place to be. I always talk about how a couple of years ago the platform was such a landscape of divisiveness, and I think it's great that people found a way to make it connectiveness, instead of divisiveness.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I love that fact about things. Like, it's so interesting to talk to people from different places in the universe, and it's just really, it widens the range of that awareness. You and I talk about awareness a lot. So yeah.
Totally. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you were able to do it, and I'm looking forward to some deeper conversation. But we're at the surface level right now, and we've got to, we got to get into the live stream of consciousness mode, and that is the age-old question: what is consciousness? What are we even talking about?
So when we spoke yesterday, you said that was the question you were going to ask. That's the only question you told me you were going to ask. And I have to say, for me, especially, with astrology, everything always links back to soul. And so for me, consciousness is the soul. And I know this show, you talk a lot about consciousness, and that seems to be one of the buzzwords nowadays, and for me, I think I have to talk about the polarity, and that's the unconscious. So, so I think, for me, the unconscious, and I'm sure, I don't know what all your viewers believe, but if you really think about it, there's a place within us, that unconscious space, that I believe holds the memory of everything the soul has ever been through in many lifetimes. It holds the memory of what's happening to us now in reality. It holds the things we don't want to look at, right? What we call shadow work. It holds the space of also what our soul's intention is in this lifetime, and what we can become when our soul is in alignment. So to me, that's consciousness. Consciousness is awakening to that. Right. And, it really ties in now with the energy that we have on the planet. There's a lot of hype out there, a lot of memes, and a lot of more commercial astrology about, Pluto going into Aquarius. And Aquarius is an energy that is fabulous for that awakening of the conscious. It's ruled by a planet called Uranus, and Uranus is known as the awakener. So I think when you talk about consciousness being soul, and truly, if you had to give the simplistic version, I think it's our nature. What we intrinsically are drawn to, attracted to, and desire
Mhm,
is soul, and that's consciousness.
mhm,
And I
mhm,
think that there's a certain level of consciousness as we become more awakened to the unconscious,
mhm,
where people align with nature, right? Our own nature is very aligned with nature. I know you and
mhm,
I have talked about sacred geometry a lot and how that
yeah,
shows up in nature.
yeah,
And if you think about the higher levels of consciousness that many of your viewers are on the journey of, and you and I are on the journey of, what's one of the first things we do? We start to go out in nature more
mhm.
and align with that.
And
So,
appreciate it and understand it, and connect with it, yeah, for sure.
right. And
Yeah,
so, in a way, that's healing and allows us the space that we feel safe in to go to the unconscious,
mhm,
bring up the things we don't want to look at, which
mhm,
makes us
mhm.
more aware of the consciousness.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I don't think anyone's ever brought that up. I think people have we've talked about different levels of consciousness, and we've talked about kind of um, you know, even understanding what consciousness is, because you have that unconsciousness part of your journey that
Hmm.
that you can compare it to and be like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even
So,
understand."
yeah, so when you think of that, it's so linked because the soul's blueprint is really in the unconscious,
Right. Wow.
right? We
Yeah.
have the soul,
Yep.
our conscious mind has to know that we can't fix a problem if we don't know what it is.
Right,
We
right,
can't know
right,
the intention if we don't know what it is. And I
right.
remember doing a show on Soul Space, one of the Soul Space podcasts about relationships. And someone had called in and said, what's the key to a relationship? What's really the thing that will bring people together and they'll stay together over many years and such. And I said, I know people expected me to say like communication or any of the three-dimensional things we always think about. And I said desire.
Mhm.
And so to me, that's what consciousness is. It awakens your true desire, which is your nature. What your soul
Mm.
truly desires in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
lifetime is your consciousness.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. What a great answer. And you know what? I kind of that's what I expected this conversation to be like when I said, you're much more than an astrologer. I remember when we met and you explained, you know, what even a chart was, right? You
Hmm.
just had such a deep knowledge of what that chart was and what every element represented,
Yeah.
and not only that, but you were able to explain it pretty understandably to me. You know what I mean? And I mean, of course, I'm interested in that kind of stuff, which helped,
Hmm.
but I just kind of you definitely helped open up the perspective of what it all meant. You know what I mean? It's kind of abstract to a lot of people, I'm
Thank
sure.
you. I'm glad to hear
Mm,
that. I think
mm,
whenever I'm a little bit different than most readers, I do psychic readings as well. I do mediumship. And I've always been really different in the way that I've read. And I know, and I don't want to bash anyone. I feel everyone's on their own journey and everyone's soul's intention will come through.
mhm,
Um, and I think most people have a very good intention, but I also am a little bit different in the sense that from the very beginning, even in the early years when I started to do astrology or other modalities, I it always just went to the soul space for me. Like
mhm,
I'm not someone you go to find out, oh, is the relationship going to last, or oh, am I going to win a
right,
car? Am I going to win
right,
lotto? I've never been that person. I'm the
right,
person who, if you want to know what your soul's intention is and what this lifetime's about for you or where your healing is, I could probably
mhm,
help you
mhm,
with that. And I want you to tell me why you're coming to me,
right,
and
right,
so that I think that's really where I think all of us doing soul work and light work in the world, I think that's really where we're headed now in
mhm,
this level of consciousness that we're reaching is
sure,
it's no longer about us and what we know.
right,
It's about bringing someone
right,
else to the space, like your
mm,
show, you
right,
know,
right, right, right,
to really bring someone to the awakening of, oh, wait, what is that? What is consciousness? What is that for
right.
me?
Right. Right, right, totally, totally, and I think that's where I found myself, right? So I know a lot of people who have all these different modalities, psychic mediums, Akashic records, astrology, all of these
Mhm.
amazing, amazing things, and I haven't been really drawn to do that or to heal or to help people read their records, but I feel like I'm kind of like the middleman to translate that to the blue collar guy, you know what I mean, who might not understand that. I
Right.
can I can explain it. I can kind of, I don't even know the
Inspiration.
word. Yeah, I just, it's just, I know a lot of people who kind of are maybe just not really on a spiritual journey, have told me, wow, I learned so much just from being around you, just
Mhm.
about, being calm, you know what I mean, and not reacting to situations and certain things that are definitely tied to my own spirituality, and
Mhm.
how I behave, right?
Yeah.
So,
The
which is
essence.
very
You know,
cool.
you
Yeah,
give
my
off that vibe. Yeah.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly, my essence, totally. And that's funny because I just I just put out a you just reminded me, I put out this Facebook post. I wanted to make a meme out of it, but I didn't have enough time to like do a video and do all of this stuff I wanted to do. But all of the stuff that's going on right now with pronouns, people being so specific, oh, you need to address me, but I'm like, let's address each other by disposition. Wouldn't it be so much cooler if you're like, oh, there's Happy Michael, you know what I mean? Like, there's Friendly Joe.
I
Oh,
think the
there's
Marx Brothers did that.
oh, did they really? That's
You know,
funny.
Groucho and
Yeah, yeah. So I just said, forget your pronoun. Tell me what your disposition is.
right, right.
Um,
And it's funny that you mentioned that because one of the other things with Aquarian energy is it's all about individuation.
mhm.
So, that's I think where we're all leaning to is it's all about the specifics of that person. And like you said, personality should be your moniker or something.
Totally, totally. Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, I want to get into who you are, and you mentioned the word soul space as going to this place, but that's kind of your thing too. I want to talk about all that, but I want to ask you if you have a specific memory or story to share of when you understood, hey, there are, other realms,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
So my opening, as I call it, is very interesting because, I, like everyone in the Pluto and Virgo generations, I grew up with a pretty tight container, right? So I was brought up Catholic. My mother was extremely religious.
Mhm.
And I always tell the story. My older sister brought home a Ouija board from college, and my mother threw it out the upper story window of our house and chased us around and beat the crap out of us and told us we were blasphemers.
Wow.
And to this day, I've never had a Ouija board anywhere in the vicinity of my body. So, grew up with a lot of conditioning. And so, in 2010, between the years of 2008 and 2010, I had what can only be called an awakening, not like what people think is an awakening. To me, an awakening is when your whole entire life completely crumbles. Everything that you ever held dear in your life is completely gone, and you are facing the dark night of the soul reckoning, where you are completely humbled in every aspect of your life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was what happened to me. And
Mhm.
so it started with my parents both passed away 6 months apart, and then and had watched them be sick and nurse them, and really watched both my parents pass. And
Wow.
I was with my mom when she passed and had an experience with that. But what happened, that was the first thing that happened in 2008 and 9, and then 6 months apart. And then I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2009. And
Wow.
I had just watched my mother die of breast cancer.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was like all these things. And so as I'm in treatment for breast cancer, my best friend of 30 years was diagnosed with leukemia, and he ended up in a battle as well while I'm battling. And so the people that were in my life, that were like the history of my life, that knew me, were gone. Like my friend finally did pass away, but in the
Mm.
interim of me going through my own cancer treatment, and my friend also going through his treatment for leukemia, in the interim of that, I was just finishing my treatment, which was like, a year of in and out, obviously focusing on health. And that changed me a lot. The cancer journey really changed me a lot. I do work with cancer patients now, healing
Mhm.
work and Reiki. And so the culmination of all those things, I was still getting through, doing okay.
Mhm.
And then in January, February of 2011, just as I was coming out of the cancer, I out of the blue, like completely blindsided. My husband had an affair with someone that was a friend of mine and left.
My wow.
And he was the only constant at that point. So then 2 months later, my best friend finally succumbed to leukemia. So I
Wow.
remember, yeah. So I remember coming home
Dark
from,
night for sure, yeah.
yeah. So it was just this culmination of loss and loss and loss and loss.
Mhm.
And so I believe many people on the spiritual path go through an abduction like that. I call it your whole life is abducted from you. And so I don't think I'm any different than anyone else, or my story is any better or worse than anyone else. I think we all have a story.
Right.
So as I'm in this, like the final straw was when my husband left, because we were very prominent in the community and we had a very public, personalities, and we had businesses and all those things that don't matter really in the world. Don't really matter in the world now, but then it did. And what happened was, and this is the story. So when my parents died, someone came to me and they said, you need to go to a psychic. And I was like, what are you talking about? I would never go to a psychic. I'm still, Catholic girl, Georgia, right? So I went to a dinner party and someone said, you need to go to a psychic. And they gave me the same name. And it was Jim Fargiano out in Quag. And so now I keep hearing people keep telling me to go to Jim Fargiano. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? I never went to anybody in my life. So I went to him, and I was still married at the time. My parents had passed. I went to him, and it was like I had tea with my parents. He just knew everything. It all came through. And I had never in my life had an experience like that.
Wow.
And it was just so strange, because it was right on the heels of the night my father died. Prior to his death, about a week before, I was sitting by his bed and we were having the conversation about what he wanted in preparation of his funeral. And my father, unlike my mom, was an atheist. And he said to me, I don't want anything. Don't even put a cross in my room. If you put anything in that room, I'm going to come back and haunt you. That was my dad. My dad was
wow. Oh my goodness.
So the night he died, and I was with him when he passed, I thought I was going to not be able to sleep. I went to sleep that night, Michael, and I had said to my father in the conversation when we were talking about what he wanted, I had said to him, I just kind of laughed it off, and I said, okay, Daddy, if anything's on the other side, you just send me a sign. Okay, fine. So the night he died, I came home, went to sleep, and I thought I wasn't going to sleep, and instead I went into a very, very deep, deep sleep. And I woke up the next morning, and people will say it's a dream, but for me, it was not a dream. It was actually a different level of frequency consciousness, that I was in a different place. And I saw this amazing sunrise, like as though you're in a boat speeding across the water. And this sunrise had colors in it that were undescribable. Like there were no words to describe that sunset in this world.
Wow.
And I woke up and I was like, oh my God, there's something beyond. I just knew it. Then a couple of months later, I go to this psychic and he's talking to me from the beyond. So now things are starting to click. But then I had the cancer diagnosis, and during the cancer diagnosis, I became spiritual, because let's face it, no one goes to church when they win lotto. We all run to church when we're sick. Right. So now I'm having spiritual experiences. I had another experience after my father died where he came to me. It was really strange stuff happening. So now everything happens. My husband's gone. My best friend's passed. I'm home alone. I have nobody. Like when I came home from my best friend's funeral, I went to call somebody and I realized there was literally nobody who knew my life. Like anyone who was in my life in the historic portion of it was gone.
Right. Nobody who had that you wanted to call that had that connection to.
I had no connection. So I remember it was a couple of nights later and I was just home, and in deep turmoil. I mean, I had just hit the floor at that point. I was like, my sisters had to come from far away and help me. And I was really bad. So they left and I was home alone, and I got a phone call from at the time I had a real estate brokerage office, and one of my agents called, and she was Ukrainian. And I remember her calling me. Her name was Galina. And she said, Georgia, sometimes I have dreams, and I'm going to tell you there's a blue box in your basement and there's a message from your mother. Wow. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's no blue box in my basement. There's no message. Oh, okay, whatever, Galina. And I hung up. I went to sleep. And I woke up at 2:00 in the morning with Galina's voice in my head. And so now I go down to my basement storeroom, 2:00 in the morning. Nobody's around.
Right.
And I start looking through boxes. My sisters had given me, when we cleaned out my mom's condo, my sisters had given me a box with family photos in it. So I'm like, maybe my mother has something in there. I don't know. I'm like,
it was blue. The box was blue.
I'm desperately looking for connection. There's nobody in my life. This random person calls me up and tells me there's a blue box.
Right.
So I find in the bottom of this bucket of pictures, I find this blue box like there's a photo album in it. I open the box and it's a diary of my mother's. And it's a diary of my mom. And my father, when I was 13, 14 years old, had literally done the same thing that my husband just did.
Wow.
And I'm reading this diary and I'm realizing I'm the same age my mother is when she wrote in this diary. She's talking about how her husband, she was not
Infidelity.
prepared,
Yeah.
he's gone.
Yeah.
And she's talking about her faith and how her faith is getting her through. And I sat on that basement floor for 2 hours that night, in the middle of the night, and I read my mother's diary. And it was like she was speaking to me from the grave and telling me how I was going to get through all this.
Oh my God.
And it only happened because this random person that worked for me called and said, "There's a blue box in your basement."
That's
So
and was that person like psychic? They were a psychic, or
she had a dream. So I guess she had a
she
gift.
just had a dream?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh wow.
So from then on, that started the path. The dream from my dad the night he died got me kind of like thinking, wow, there really is something. Then when I went to the psychic, it was like, well, how did he do that? But then when this happened, it was inexplainable.
Right.
The only way it could be
You were
explained,
convinced. Yeah.
right? The only way it could be explained was it was real. It was tangible.
Sure.
So that led me on a trek, and I started to just open. And what I realized was my opening came through angels and the angelic realm, and I started to study angels constantly. I went deep into angelic energy, and I started to channel angels. And before long, I realized that I had these gifts. And because of the conditioning in my life and the container I lived in, which was a very strictly religious background and years of religious education, going to private school in that regard.
Right.
Whenever I would have a feeling, my mom or whoever would label it, "Oh, you're anxious, you're just nervous." So anytime I had a sensation or a feeling, which I now know was, a psychic or an intuition, I crushed it because it was labeled bad.
Right. Wow.
So now here I am, and I'm in a place in my life that this is just happening.
Wow.
And
Yeah, of course.
basically my whole life turned around. I mean, it was a very accelerated path. I do have Uranus conjunct Pluto in my chart, which if anyone who does astrology out there understands that. So it was extremely accelerated, and it was just such an opening. And then I went to yoga, and I used to go to yoga every day. And then, of course, when my body was in alignment, the consciousness just came through like crazy.
Wow. Awesome.
And before long, I remember the very first time I ever was in a Reiki circle and started, the girl who was sitting across from me, all of a sudden I started like getting messages from her sister that had passed. And I had never had anything like that happen in my life.
Now the psychic comes in, the
Yeah,
medium,
it was like that. And then going through also this turmoil, because now I'm also associating with people who are like going to classes and trying to develop these things. And I'm not doing any of that. And it's just happening for me.
Right.
And because you have to be open.
You're making me excited because I feel like, like that's stuff I have to look forward to. You know what I mean? Because it's like I'm kind of, it's like I certainly have my connection with my own intuition, and I'm good with where it's at. But I know like it definitely touches much deeper levels. Georgia, I want to say, wow, what an amazing story so far. We haven't even gotten
I feel
started.
like I had nothing to do with it. It just like happened.
It's amazing. But I want to go back a little first, and then I want to address the audience because they've been chit chatting, and I see a bunch of stuff.
I went on a very long time. I'm very worried.
No, it's all good. It was such a great story. But I love that the answer to the question when I was like, do you have a story or a memory, was this psychic medium, and the way you described it, that you had tea with your mother and your father. That is beautiful. That is such an amazing way to describe that experience, and such an amazing way to experience that experience, right? I mean,
unbelievable. He was really great.
It must have been amazing. So I see the Quiet Healer showed up. Janice is out there. What's up, Janice? I see Mary Jean showed up. I want to say hello to people who showed up and said hello. Helen Wagner, when you were talking, she said energetic attraction manifesting is spiritual algorithms. I think we were talking about algorithms, and that's a great way to look at it. Grace Grella is here. She always talks about songs that are hitting her when she's here in the conversation. Billy Joel, it's all about a soul, a deeper faith and devotion.
I call that spirit radio.
Spirit radio, nice. Helen said, I think I know my purpose. Then something happens and I get turned around. Right now I'm lost in treading water again. That's definitely sounds like the journey, Helen. That sounds like you know, for sure, you're doing something right. I want to say, if that's what it feels like, you're doing something right.
And
And
if
I
I
think,
could offer, like, out there, the people like Helen, people chase it. And it's like, you see all these people going to psychic development classes. And if that resonates, that's great. But I think you just have to surrender. You have to
Mhm,
open, instead
mhm,
of saying, what is it? What is it?
yep,
Just say,
there it is. You see, when you see it, you just say, "There it is," and
yeah,
then you let it go until you see it again.
right.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
we all have that intrinsic nature, but we're
Yeah.
so busy trying to, like, find it. We don't allow it to come through.
Right, and catch it and hold it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
A fun mommy is out there. What's up, fun mommy? Good to see you. She usually misses the show and catches the replay. She's catching it live, and she says, "Oh my God, I needed to hear this. Thank you for sharing." See, so there is a reason you are my guest tonight. Fun mommy is here, and she's getting some messages from this story. Helen is saying you're so blessed. Mary Jean is saying, "I can't wait till that happens to me." Right? It's like when you're on a spiritual journey. You're like, "Wait a second, I'm not a psychic medium. I'm not this. I'm not that." It's like that shit'll happen, it's gonna come, you know what I mean? And it's like it does, because I feel like as I become more aware, I'm like, oh, wait a second, that experience I had, that was a psychic experience, right? And you start to recognize how the messages come through. I think that's
Yeah.
part of being being a psychic, and even
Mhm.
being a medium. When you get messages from the other side, you start to be able to recognize how those messages are coming through. That's
Yeah, and I think for whatever reason, I don't know why, maybe it was my upbringing with faith, but from the very beginning, like, I always felt it wasn't about me. Even
Mhm,
when I was having these experiences, I felt like it was always about the other. If I
mhm,
was getting messages for someone, it was really their message. And
mhm,
of course,
mhm,
they were for me
mhm.
somewhat too, but I never came from a place of, I want to show someone what I can do, or like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to be like the best psychic ever. I never came from that kind of a consciousness.
Right,
It was always, oh, I'm being given this for the people in the world. It's
right.
not mine, it's God's.
Right, totally. And that actually is a perfect segue to Grace Grella's comment, who said, "I liked and shared the show. She reminded me to say it again. Like, if you're relating to this, or if you know people who would really understand this, don't forget, like, you're watching. A lot of times we forget, and so I'm just reminding you gently, like, share it out to your feed, so people who should be seeing this see it. Is That's how it works, right? It's like, if you're supposed to be seeing something, it'll pop up somehow in your feed, and be a part of that. Be a part of that energy. How cool would that be, right? If you share something with someone, they're like, "Oh my God, I saw the show you shared, and this is how it hit me," right? That's how we all connect, and that's how it grows. I think that's
Right.
awesome.
Get the
Fun
better.
mommy saying, "The more you trust yourself, the more you will remember the things you already know at a soul level." See
All
that?
there.
So yeah,
All
my
there.
audience is great. They really they get it. They love to talk about it and share it. So I guess that's cool. So that's why I was asking everybody to share. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about where you're at now. Let's talk about soul space. Let's start there, because you talked
Okay.
about, mentally, that was where you felt you were going, right? Into a soul
Mhm.
space. And
Yeah.
that's the name of your show that you do
Mhm.
each week. Oh, you know what? Speaking of which, that reminded me, let me put that up here. I have your website up there, zencuda.com,
Okay,
and people
that's
can
fine. Yeah.
find, and I want
Mhm.
to talk about that word too.
Okay.
But let's start with soul space. So you said that's where you go, and that's the show you had. Let's bring
Yeah,
us up to
so
speed.
I decided to name the show Soul Space because it's different for everybody, right? We all have a space, and oftentimes, especially when people are coming from the beginner's mind on the soul journey, they're like, "Oh, I can't meditate, I can't do this, I can't do that," and I'm always like, "Just go walk on the beach, just go
Mhm,
walk in the forest, just spend an extra 5 minutes in quiet every day, and just take the pause, slow your roll."
mhm,
And for me, that's the soul space, and it's different for
right,
everybody.
right,
I used to have an ex that was a beautiful water skier, and I would always tell him, "Go water ski. That's like your church, because when you come
right,
back from there, you're in such a beautiful space."
mm,
So I felt like soul space is something everyone can relate to, no matter what it is.
totally. I
And
love
I
it. I love it.
yeah, and I think if we all can just spend more time in that space, especially
It's
in
Yeah,
this
it's so
world.
easy, and like you said, it's just taking a break, like turning off everything outside and just being like,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna relax, and I'm gonna breathe in and out, and I'm gonna slow it all down. Yeah, and fun
yeah.
mommy
And then
saying.
the good thoughts come, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. And it's so easy. And again, I think that's really, I feel like, my purpose, and this show's purpose is just to remind you, you know what? Oh yeah, that show's on. Let me watch. Let me see who's talking. Let me see what they're talking about. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Take a minute to tune in to that vibration. So
And
thank you, everybody.
yeah, good show. I'm going
Yeah.
to tune in every week from now on.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. That's great. And I was saying earlier about it's I was thinking about when we reconnected, I'm like, how come I don't talk to Georgia that much, Like every once in a while I'll see her stuff online and I'll like it and this and that, but we don't really talk. So yeah, we should definitely connect some more. One of the things you were talking about is how your journey is, you came kind of through the angelic realm and you relate to the
Mhm.
angelic realm.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm doing right now, and we're starting it back up next Monday, is I have a show, and I'm like kind of like the co-host. This guy named Brian Lahr is the host, and he's a wizard. He's a shaman.
Ooh,
He's also a light painting photographer artist who is beyond phenomenal. You would
yeah,
love him, and I'm
yeah.
going to introduce you to him because our show is called The Angel Channel,
Oh, I
and
love that.
he has a deck, he has a tarot deck that we went through and we did a whole show on the tarot, but now we're doing the angel channel to go through his angel deck. And
Beautiful.
he literally spent time with each of the angels. He's got 72 angels in the
Mhm.
cards, and
The
it's just
hierarchy. Yeah.
it's such an amazing connection. Brian is such an amazing person. I cannot wait to introduce you to him. And
Angelic energy is so high. It's such a high frequency. Whenever I have angels around me, I hear them. It's like, "Ee." It's
wow.
like they're just. It's such a sweet, beautiful energy, and people don't realize that angels are around us all the time. We just have to call them in.
Hmm, hmm,
And
hmm.
it's just what I'm so grateful that they helped me open because it was just such a sweet way to open.
Right. That's awesome. And I gotta say, so for me personally, that's the message that's I've been getting from a lot of people, when I get in conversations with them, and I'm doing work with Wendy Gale, who's a guest I just had
Yes.
recently. And the message I get is, hey, we're here. Ask us whatever you need. The angels are here. And I really, again, I don't want to say that I don't, but I don't necessarily feel like I do it in a way like that you would think, and I don't think that I receive the information back in a way you would think, and I definitely want to
Well, I will
hone.
tell you, doing that show with that gentleman, you
Yeah.
will have so much angelic energy around you, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah, oh, I do. I
Yeah,
Brian is such a I love Brian so much. He's such an amazing guy, and every time we have a conversation, I feel like it's not even like I'm peeling off another layer. It's like I'm just seeing, oh my God, look through this layer. Now I can see
right.
other layers underneath, and I'm not, it's just
It's so
amazing.
funny because as you're speaking about him, I feel his energy. I wanna use the word luminous.
Yeah, oh, that's such a perfect word.
Yes, I'm feeling him very
You don't even know. Oh, I cannot wait to introduce you guys. Awesome. And we're going to invite you on the Angel channel for
oh,
sure.
hey, I
Uh,
love
yeah, because I know you also read, and you've created a deck yourself, right? You've created an
yes,
angel
I
deck,
have a deck called Circle of Light.
the
Um,
Circle of
I
Light.
created that in 2020, right before COVID. It came out in 2020, but I had created it before COVID. It's 22 cards, master number. 22 is also my soul number.
Hmm.
And it's just a very inspirational deck about light and bringing light in and raising vibration. And they're
Hmm.
beautiful cards, and you can get them on my website.
Awesome, 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 awesome. I
Zencuda.
love it. I love it. Yeah, there's definitely a reason we reconnected
Yeah,
for sure. I
definitely.
mean, there's a reason we connected in the first place, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
and then there's a reason that we reconnected.
Yep.
So I'm super excited
So,
about
and
that.
I feel like when people, I feel like it's like waves, right? We're all waves on the ocean, and sometimes you're in and somebody's out and somebody's in, but you're still in the ocean,
Hmm,
We're all
hmm,
just following our paths. I'm
hmm,
doing getting back to what you were mentioning in the beginning of the program with, people from all over the world and how you have viewers and my show's that way too. I'm currently in a mentorship program for evolutionary astrology because I want to deepen my own, practice. And it's
hmm.
so cool because I have people on there from South Africa and we're all a group. We do group
Amazing, right?
calls. Yeah. And it's just to see all these beautiful perspectives. It's just
Right.
amazing. So
So I was saying, I think that for me, at least up until now, and even now at this moment, the journey for me has been connecting with people and having conversations
conversation,
uh,
yeah,
with people, and I have been feeling, I have been part of these exercises, right? So even so, Brian, when I do some shows with Brian, sometimes he'll do these exercises of breathing, and
hmm
I'll do them with him, and then whoever's watching and doing them too, we all connect, right? We all connect our energies at that moment through that, just through that intention, and I feel like that's something I'm going to be growing into.
right.
I may need a guide, and maybe it's going to be Brian to help me do that.
Well, I have to tell you, that I had your chart because when I first met you, I looked at your chart for you, and I pulled your chart today because I just wanted to see, what was going on.
Oh
And
no.
I have to tell you, you are so on your path because Sagittarius is an energy that is a bit broader and higher perspective. A lot of times when we see a chart with a lot of Sagittarian intention in it, it will even, be someone who travels in foreign places or whatever. And
Mhm,
for you, that's your third house, which is all about communication.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
So that's why you are bringing so many unique people together through a broader spectrum and communicating this way. It's
Mm,
absolutely,
perfect. Yeah.
innate for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, and you know what's cool is, like, it's always felt like that, or like related to that, right? It's always felt like, wait, there's a reason you're doing this,
Right.
and
Right.
it never, and didn't start that way. I started behind the camera. I never wanted to be on
I remember.
camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Remember, I said to you, I said, your job is to bring people information.
yeah, yeah, and that's, I guess that's what it's been.
Yeah. Doing
And
a great job.
it's really been really fun. Thank you. I appreciate that. Um,
So, can I talk a little bit about the mentorship program I'm in? Because it's really exciting for me. So,
please do tell us all
I
about
don't
it.
want to steer the show.
No, no, no. This is your space. Again, I brought you on to ask you my questions. You already answered them eloquently and wonderfully, and so now it's your
So,
turn.
I'm so excited about this mentorship program that I'm doing. It's with a gentleman named Simon Vorster. He lives in Sweden. I think, originally is from South Africa. He's an amazing teacher of astrology, and I'm in a private mentorship program with him, and I'm also taking another immersion study. But the evolutionary astrology comes from the lens of individuation, which is so appropriate now in the world. We've got all this individuation going on, right?
Mhm,
So everyone's an individual. So unlike, the astrology, which I've been doing astrology since 2011, 2012, so a long time.
mhm.
But the evolutionary astrology comes from a perspective of the soul's intention. So now the reading, when you go to an astrologer, becomes more of, remember in the beginning of the show, we were talking about your nature and consciousness and soul.
Mhm,
So it becomes more of that. It's about what is your soul's intention in this lifetime.
mhm,
And
mhm,
instead of, oh, you're a Gemini, you're going to be a little scattered. Like that information really doesn't help anybody, right?
right, right,
But if you can see in the chart where the soul's intention is and why the soul chose to be a Gemini sun, for example, then that opens a conversation with that client where they're connecting, but they're
right,
not just connecting with me as an astrologer, they're connecting with their own soul during the process of the reading.
right, right, right. And we were talking as well. It's also, I think, opens up your thoughts to how that connects to your whole life, right? Like the
Right,
things that you've
right,
experienced over life. Like, oh, wait a
right.
second, I did experience something that makes sense to what you're saying, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And to
Where's the blueprint to heal
right,
it?
right, right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really cool. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
love that. Tell us more
it's
about that, because you were talking about at this evolutionary.
I I gotta tell you, I wish two things. I wish they would teach people their charts in like grade school. Because if
Mhm,
everyone had their roadmap, the world would be so a beautiful high vibrational place, more so than it is. And the
mhm,
other thing I wish is that people went to an astrologer like they do a doctor,
mhm,
because
mhm.
I feel like
Yeah.
everyone
Mhm.
should see an astrologer every few months.
Right. Mhm.
It's just such a deepening of your life meaning. But, people don't do that. So I think that if you're going to do that, I would say definitely discern, make sure you're going to someone who really is deeply in study and knows what they're doing. Because for me, when I first started to study astrology, the reason I was led to it was because I was doing regular readings. Like people would just come to me for a tarot or a regular mediumship reading. And I started to ask the birth date because just intuitively, for some reason, I was led to do that. Because when I would look up the birth date and the chart, and I didn't really even know what I was doing, then I would just like look up a chart.
Right.
It was a gateway to the soul for me. I didn't know why. I didn't have the context of what that meant,
Right.
but
Right.
it just
Right.
was.
Right.
And so in that regard, I think it can really be a lot of keys for people. And so I
Right.
wish that everyone, just like people go for Reiki or they go for healing, they go for massage, you go for reflexology. I wish people would go for astrology.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think there's two things to that you were talking about. One, if we were taught that in school, we wouldn't all need to do it because it would be a way of life, right? And
Right.
I think that's what I'm kind of trying to say too, is that the way of life that we are kind of I don't want to say forced into because not everybody does
Conditioned
it.
into.
Coerced. I don't even want to. Somebody told me no, there is no conditioning because you allow it, right? And
Well, I
and
disagree because when you're a child, your brain isn't even formed yet.
I think there's definitely intentional coerciveness happening, right? Let's call it
Yeah,
that, right?
somewhat. Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
we were talking earlier, right? I don't love to
Fear-mongering.
right, exactly. I don't love fear mongering. I don't love the term what the hell, now the term just left my head because I just said I don't like it. Blah, 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 blah. Theory, what is it? Oh my god, we were talking about it.
I know, and now I can't remember the word.
Conspiracy, that's it.
Yeah,
Conspiracy theory.
conspiracy
Like
theory,
see,
yeah.
I don't even like the word.
No.
I don't even like saying the word. But I will say that life, right, at this age, at my age, I've certainly realized that I've been coerced into trying to live a certain way, having work, having to pay my rent, all of these systems that are
Well,
in
yeah,
place,
and
you know,
maybe coerced is a little I can see that word, maybe manipulation. Yeah,
manipulation,
yeah,
right. And so again, I don't like to talk about it in the way, but if you're talking about there's some sort of manipulation, well then there's some sort of force, right, that's
right.
doing that manipulation, which is
Well,
the
we manipulate ourselves because of fear.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so one of the ways that I remember back in like 2013, I was on the path and I had read something. It was actually a Pema Chodron. She's a Buddhist monk, and she wrote a book, When Things Fall Apart. And it was a
mhm,
really inspiring book for me. I highly recommend it. And
mhm,
she talks in the book a lot about fear versus love. And I
mhm,
made this vow that I was going to start to live in a love-based mentality instead of a fear-based mentality.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it changed my life because I started like questioning decisions and what I liked and what I didn't like. And I would say, do I feel this way out of fear or do I feel this way out of love?
Right. Right.
So that's where I think the conditioning comes in, where we're kind of assimilated to be a certain way and believe a certain way. And we have all these belief systems. And then I
Right.
believe the journey to consciousness is that unraveling of those unconscious systems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not easy.
So maybe it's supposed to be that way, but it does feel like, especially these days and looking back, and it seems like a lot of people are realizing this kind of thing, that there
Yeah.
is this they, right? My mom, when anytime I would say like, oh, they do this or they do that, she'd be like, who's they? And I'm like,
She's a good
mom,
mom.
you're stuck in these paradigms, you're just
Yeah. Yeah.
and whatever. And
Do you
but
think
now I'm more compassionate to that. Like now I'm like,
right.
I get it. I
Yeah.
understand why you're that way.
And do you think those like that conditioning or manipulation or coercion, like do you think that's amplifying now in the world? Or do you think that like I
No, what I think is happening is people are becoming aware of it,
yeah,
and do I think it's yes,
I think it
I
has to
think
amplify for that, right?
yeah, exactly, that's a part
Yeah.
of it, and I think because there are people who are buying into it, it is amplifying. We were talking
Yeah.
about this again when we connected about the people who, and not to alienate anybody, but people, the idea of red and blue, and I have to pick one of those,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Polarity. Everything's
And
polarized.
how important it is, right? Like, it's like how, you know, and I'm not saying it isn't. I don't want to say it isn't, because if it is to you and that's the way you need to exist, then there's a reason, right?
Right.
There's a reason it exists, and it's to get you from
Right.
point A to point B, however comfortable or uncomfortable that might be for you and everybody else.
Mhm. I think it gets back against that openness. You
Yeah,
know, you can believe what you can believe, and I can believe what I can believe, and everyone can believe their
right.
stuff. We could all still love each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Everybody's caught up in the differences instead of the similarities.
And I
You
think
know
we're
what I
going to
mean?
see that change a little bit also with the Aquarian energy coming in, because I feel it's all about individuation, but it's also about community. Like you were saying with the live stream of consciousness and what you do and what I do, we're really forming communities. And I think that in those communities there's a lot more tolerance. And so I think that's the future. Aquarian energy is very much futuristic. And I'm
Mhm.
hoping that's really where our consciousness is going, is in that beautiful space of tolerance.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so too. And again, you know, I see it, I feel it, you know, you know, the it depends on where you put yourself, right? Because you can see there are certainly,
Absolutely.
if I wanted to not find that, I could not find it, but
Hmm.
I want to find it. So I look for it, and when I see it, I drift towards it, right? I
Right.
try to put
And I
myself
think
in that
that
energy.
that discernment is really key. And I know you and I talked about, like, I don't judge people. I feel that whatever someone's art is, someone is liking it, someone's disliking it, but we're all getting something out of it.
Mhm, mhm.
And right now, I feel like in the world, it's become such an important thing to be an influencer. And there's so many. They did it like a survey, and grade school children, when they asked them what they wanted to be, they all said they wanted to be influencers.
Right,
And
social
I I
media,
al
yeah.
I always say, "I don't wanna be an influencer, I don't wanna influence anybody, I wanna be an inspiration to you, that you go out and
Right.
find I'll be an
Oh,
inspiration to
I
you."
love what you just said. Imagine if they were called inspiration or
Inspirers, yeah.
inspirers. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
it's like
that would be cool. Yeah.
on my, resume, whenever I go, for any kind of spiritual thing, it says inspirational being, because that's what I'm not, and I will never be an influencer, I don't wanna influence anyone.
I can, you know, and I think we knew this when we met. We were finding a lot of things that were very, very similar about the way we present ourselves.
Yeah,
And on my resume, I said I want to be a part of a team that I inspire as much as I draw inspiration from.
that's beautiful. That
Yeah.
is so beautiful.
And authentic, but like
Oh,
absolutely
yeah,
a
yeah,
million percent true,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
totally
so,
cool.
like, that whole idea of conditioning or manipulation, like, that's what that is. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's performance art. It's become, even with astrology or certain influencers that you watch, because that's what they are. It's become a performance art instead of really a meaningful conversation.
that's right.
And I
Right.
think that's where the conditioning comes in for a lot of very young people,
Yeah,
because they are watching these people, and it's not about the person who is watching you as a person, it's about the number.
right, right.
And I think people need to start seeing through that a little bit and going towards media that's really authentic.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I want to address Fun Mommy. She's saying a couple of things here. So this was a little while back. She said she would like to write children's books for empathic kids. She
Beautiful.
agrees with you about teaching kids about all of themselves. So this is when you were talking about learning astrology in school. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And just kind of learning themselves. And then she said there's something that we all need. So many people forget, and that is each other. We need each other,
Interdependence, right?
and that's amazing. It's so, I find so much amazement in connecting with people, and just like
Oh,
I've talked about it on the show too, just like the ability to see my reflection in others, the
mm,
homeless guy and the CEO, you know,
yeah,
I could see myself in both of them, and it's just such a free place to be, you know what I mean? It really is.
that's your Libra ascendant, honey.
It really is. And Fun Mommy said, I love that. I think she was talking about when we said inspire, instead of influencer. And Grace, who is a psychic medium, is asking if you're an Aquarius.
No, I'm not an Aquarius, but I have a lot of Aquarian energy in my chart with different things, different aspects. So yeah. Uranus has kicked my butt and made me who I am today with her best friend Pluto over there. But it's so funny. But I love what your viewer said about writing books, because I am a huge, huge, huge fan of the written word. I just feel like we've really gotten away from that, and the whole AI writing things makes me crazy. But I love that she would write for children, because I don't think there's enough of that. Children need to read, read, read.
Sure. And especially if you can present concepts in a way that they relate to. And I mean, think about it. When you're a kid, you reread a book over and over. You know, you find a book who you're like, I like this book. Can we read this one again? You know, could we read this one again?
And you need that beautiful imagination where you can go to where anything's possible. You know, I told you the story of my awakening, and like that's like the impossible is possible. So, you know, when you read and you have that beautiful, you know, synthesis of reality and fantasy, it opens you to things.
Totally. And I think also, like Fun Mama was saying, when you connect to different people, you know, you start to get open to different perspectives. It's I'm amazed that it's like we're already in an hour, because that was like the fastest.
It always works that way.
This has never gone. Because I really want to get into the conversation that you're talking about, the idea that it's all about individuation, and that's what's coming. Because I agree in so many ways, but I do agree, like, also that community is an important part, and that community part is really kind of like the bridge of individuation to the divine source, right?
Absolutely. And I think one of your viewers just said we all need each other, and it's that interdependence. And I think that was one of the lessons of COVID that no one really got. Like, we do all need each other, you know, but everyone started to become so terrified and
afraid of each other, right? It was like the opposite, like, oh my God, watch out for that person.
Give me that toilet paper, you know?
Oh my God, horrible.
You know?
When Mommy says, I was very empathic as a child, but I didn't understand it, right? And
I have a word that I use. I say, well, now I under really stand.
Now I under really stand. Nice. That's funny. Yeah. And I think probably not only did you not understand it, Fun Mommy, but you were probably discouraged, you know, in a lot of ways to even try to understand it. You know,
and that's part of the conditioning. You know, we have sensations and they're labeled in the negative, and then we take that with us through our life.
Totally. Man, if only we could all just like be each other's therapists and be more compassionate towards each other, and understand, like, okay, maybe I don't like where you're at, but whatever you experienced is what I don't like, because it put you there. It's not that I don't like, you know, who you are.
I think of it as we all have a story, right? Like, I told my story of, you know, how my whole life was abducted from me, and many of us have those stories. And I think if we could all at some point in our life just sit with each other and let someone just sit there quietly and let someone tell you their story, and then at the end of it just hug them for like 5 minutes straight and say, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
I think that would be so healing for every human being on the planet.
Totally. I'm a huge hugger. Yeah. I'm a huge hugger, and it's very interesting. So I saw this. First of all, let me take a quick break here, and then I'm going to get back to this Venn diagram thing. I saw Mary Jean, who is a recent viewer. She's been here for the last couple of weeks, subscribed, and I promised always to ring the bell.
Angel got his wings.
Yes, an angel got its wings, and I don't ask people to subscribe and ring the bell. I say, you subscribe and I'll ring the bell. And so I just wanted to
I'll have to subscribe when I get off. I didn't know about it.
Awesome. And now, what was I going to say? Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh man.
I'm sorry. I have that effect on a lot of people.
You know, no, this is really has been just as an amazing of a conversation as I have wanted it to be, and I don't think we're even done. So I'm going to have to ask you to come back.
We hit the iceberg, right?
Yeah, I think we chipped the iceberg, and I think maybe well, we'll talk about it after. There might be something we can do together to
Hmm. Yeah,
kind of combine our energies and powers in
collaborate.
in this space. Collaboration it is always a great thing. I can't believe I forgot what I was going to say. I really wanted
You
to.
know it's going to come back to you a minute after you sign
Oh,
off.
it
Always
totally is.
happens.
It totally is. We'll have to bring you back. So Zencuda.com is where people can find you.
Yeah,
You
the
do
website's getting revamped, but you can find me there, or Zencuda Soul Space on Facebook and Zencuda Official on Instagram.
okay. I'm surprised you're telling me the website's getting redone because it is a beautiful website. I'm going to
It
share it.
is. I just, it's about 4 or 5 years old now, and I just need it to be a little bit more astrology driven because that's where I've been led to do now. So, but I
Okay.
love the graphics on my website, so we're not going to change too much.
It does. It looks beautiful. And actually, this is actually something I wanted to talk about that we didn't. This isn't what I was going to say, but Zencuda is an
Right.
energy. And I do love that. I love there are certain things about our community that people put out there, and um they they've created it just by they've manifest it's an example of manifestation, right? So
Yep.
Zencuda,
Hmm.
you told me, I believe you told me at one point that it was a combination of the word Zen,
Yeah.
which is this amazing peacefulness, and Barracuda, which
Yeah.
was a is
So,
a go
so
ahead,
yeah.
explain
So
it.
in my three-dimensional world, my earthbound life, I'm a real estate broker, and pretty prominent one. I hate to say because it's kind of has bad connotation, but I've been doing it a long time. So at one point, when I had my own brokerage, one of my builders walked in, and I didn't know him yet. He walked in, and he was a stranger at the time, and he walked all the way through all the offices, past my admins, and right in front of my desk, and he said, "Are you Georgia Westcott?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I heard you're a Barracuda." And I was so upset because to me it was like a dirty word. Like, why would you call me that? I'm a nice
Right,
person,
right, right. Like
So
it's a
flash
bad
forward,
thing, right?
yeah. So like flash forward 18 years later, I'm thinking of a word for my stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm no longer a barracuda. I'm kind of like a Zencuda now, because I'm really protective of my Zen.
I'm like a
And
Zen
so,
too.
yeah, so like living Zencuda means people who are on the path, and that's their sole priority is no one's going to mess up my Zen. No one's, you're undisturbable and you're living Zencuda.
I love it. I love it. Fun Mommy says that was a good discussion. I would love to hear more. We're gonna have more. I promise you. That was a good discussion. Tim saying not to sound weird or anything, but I can confirm Michael is a good hugger. Much positive vibes flowing.
Well,
Um,
he's
I
all
think
love, so I believe
I
that.
think that's what I did want to say. So I've always been a hugger. That is what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about that Venn diagram thing. Um, so I've always been a hugger, and I never really understood it. Now I think I have a clear understanding of it, because not everybody likes it, and that's okay. Um, but I there's a woman, Linda Newson, who is a good friend of mine, who whenever I see her and we hug, it's like I was hugging her yesterday. It was her birthday, and she had a celebration at 89 North, and we were hugging, and I'm just like, I'm not letting go. I'm not letting go first, and my arms are around her, and it was just we always have the most
The heart
amazing,
feeling.
powerful hugs. But I saw I forget his name, and I really enjoyed it. I got to look him up again. This doctor talking about um, energy, and he was talking about when you have an intimate partner and you embrace, and there's this part of you that overlaps, and you can't tell where
Like
you
coherence.
end and they begin, or vice versa. And that is like the two circles are kind of like crossing in that middle part. I can't seem to
Yeah.
do it right. That
Yep.
middle part where is it. And I think that certainly when you're with a romantic partner and somebody that you're connected with, that's amazing on such an amazing level. But even fellow human beings, I feel like that made me realize that when I was hugging Linda, I'm like,
Great
wow, this
sister.
is like that on a
Yeah.
different level. It's like
We have something we do in yoga where, and the first time I ever did it, it was like so amazing. My yoga teacher, you close your eyes and you put your hands up and you just start moving your hands.
yep,
And
yep,
after a few minutes, if you open your eyes, your hands are completely synchronized and you haven't even
yep.
seen you're not even visual. and you
Amazing.
can feel the flow. And she and I did it one time, and it was like, it was the biggest high I ever got in my life. And I remember it was
Nice.
a private session, and we went out into the anteroom, and the girl was there. She looked at us both, and she goes, "What the hell just happened to you two?" Because it
They
was
could
like
see, they could
palpable
tell.
from
Yeah,
being
yeah. There
in
you
that.
go.
You can feel it. It's just,
That's
it's
amazing.
beautiful. That coherence is just
Amazing.
unbelievable.
Amazing. I love so much when a three-dimensional being can represent the essence of an energy that's palpable, that's not visible or
Maybe you start
physical.
flying with the angels on that show, boy.
Amazing, amazing. Georgia, you are amazing. Thank you
Well,
so
good
much for
to be
being
with you.
on. Ninja Kitty says, thank you so much, Georgia. I know a bunch of people
Thank you for the
enjoyed this
opportunity. Oh, I'm
conversation.
so blessed to be here.
Yeah, yeah, I love this conversation. We will have more. I will invite you back. Let me put you in the green room and sign off, and don't go anywhere because I want to talk to
Okay.
you.
All right.
And we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody. Blessings.
Oh, wow. Hold on a second. I got to do another deep breath and feel that moment. That was amazing. Exactly what I wanted it to be. Mary Jean out there giving us some hearts, and Tim obrigado, another amazing show. That was really good. That one was amazing to me. I know you always say they're amazing, Ninja Kitty, and I always appreciate it, but that was good to me. I feel like I got the notice that Felicity Feline couldn't be on the show, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? And the minute I put out a message and Georgia responded, I was like, I knew immediately. I was like, this is going to be great. And it was really, really good. So I'm really happy about that. Felicity will be, I think, with us on the 7th. Let me open up my calendar real quick. It is the 8th right now. Yes. Next week I have Daniel Ackner, a very spiritual influencer, you would say. He's got a YouTube channel and social media that he's very inspirational figure out there. See that? I don't even use influential. I use inspirational. He is an inspirational figure out there. Some people call him an influencer. I have Mick Thomas coming up after that. Some good shows coming up. I have some good people that I'm talking to. So stay tuned, subscribe, tell your friends about the show. This is the live stream of consciousness. This is my community, your community, our community. I remember when I first started the show, I would be like, you made it, I made it, we made it, right? And that's what we did. We did with the live stream of consciousness community. Thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of my life and letting me babble whenever I do, every Thursday. I'll see you guys next Thursday, where I will be babbling once again. Peace.
What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you.